Good morning. Yes, good morning. I'm getting the green light, although in this case I see it's a red light. Welcome everyone on behalf of the University of Calgary and the McWhae Institute for Bone and Joint Health. Welcome to the Wood Forum 2024 Advances in Spine Research. Yes, back matters. Whether you're joining us in person here at the Rosa Center or online, thank you so much for being here and to being part of our 30th anniversary celebration. 30 years this has been happening. I'm Lisa Bose, and it's a pleasure to be back with you as your MC. I am truly grateful for this opportunity because I learn so much from these events. In fact, I will share with you that I have a bit of a wonky hip that has been bothering me for a few years now. And so actually a couple of weeks ago, I went on the 2022 Wood Forum and I listened to Dr. Worley chatting about hip replacement surgery and the GLAD program. So for myself and my family, thank you so much for these events because I know all of us really do appreciate how this information can help us on our own personal health journeys. So thank you for having me. To begin, we'd like to honor the Indigenous lands where the University of Calgary is situated. We both acknowledge and pay tribute to the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, which include the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda Nation. The City of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, District 5 and 6. Now, just a few housekeeping notes before we proceed. For our on-site attendees, the bathrooms are located past the coat check near the main entrance. And we understand that sitting for long durations can be uncomfortable, so please do feel free to stand and stretch during the presentations if you need. I will definitely be doing that. I cannot sit for long periods, so please join me if you need to. This year, we've included 2 opportunities for you to stretch your legs with movement for mobility and chair yoga for the spine. In addition, we will have a 15-minute break in the middle for you to get up and have some snacks or visit our partners out in the resource area. Now, for our virtual audience, thank you for joining us today. Below the video screen, you will find the event program. This includes more information about our speakers, and you'll also notice a Q&A box to the right of the screen, and that is where you will submit your questions for our Q&A panel. And they will be addressed at that time, so not in between presentations. And if you have any technical issues, please do click on the Technical Support Lab tab. For those attending in person, feel free to jot down your questions and save them for the Q&A portion. And please note that our speakers are so happy to answer your questions, but they will not be able to offer specific medical advice. And lastly, today's presentations will be recorded, shared on YouTube, and on the McWhae Institute website after the event. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are celebrating the Wood Forum's 30th anniversary. This is an initiative supported through the Wood Joint Research Fund. This fund was generously established by Dr. John and Mrs. Christena Wood in 1998 and has continued in their honor thanks to their daughter, Dr. Donna Wood. We are so happy to welcome members of the family here today. Among them are Dr. Donna Wood, her daughter Jennifer, just down here in the front. And I do believe that, yes, Mrs. Christena Wood's twin sister, Mrs. Margaret Southern, is also here. So great to see you, Mrs. Southern. Thank you so much to the Wood family for being here. This annual forum is designed to bring the public and researchers together. It's an opportunity to explore the impacts of bone and joint diseases and injuries, and to stay informed about the current advancements in related research. As we celebrate this 30-year milestone, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Wood family once again for their unwavering support and leadership to make this event possible year after year. Thank you again so much. Thank you. Before we get to the program today, I would like to welcome the director of the McCaig Institute for Bone and Joint Health, Dr. Cheryl Barnaby. Dr. Barnaby is a rheumatologist and a professor in the departments of medicine and community health sciences at the Cummings School of Medicine. Her research program is dedicated to promoting equity in health service delivery and improving arthritis outcomes, particularly for our Indigenous populations in Canada. Dr. Barnaby.
Okay, well, thank you. Oh, yes, the microphone. Thank you, and welcome to absolutely everybody. On behalf of the McCaig Institute for Bone and Joint Health, we are delighted to have you here at this 30th anniversary of the Wood Forum. The McCaig Institute is one of 7 research institutes in the Cummings School of Medicine at the University of Calgary, and we have a great breadth of researchers, everything from cells all the way through to bone and joint structures, and of course people who are suffering from arthritis and other conditions of bones and joints. So we are all united around that specific goal, which is to make sure we can prevent and treat people who have suffered these conditions. So we want to keep everybody mobile for life and moving around. Thanks to Lisa for encouraging us all to get up and do what we can to help keep our bones and joints strong today. The Wood Forum has a rich history of fostering dialogue and sharing the innovations that our institute is bringing forward. And somebody who can speak to this is Dr. Ron Zernike. Dr. Zernike is a distinguished figure in the field of joint injury research and biomechanics. He's currently a professor of orthopedic surgery, kinesiology, and biomedical engineering at the University of Michigan. He's co-director of the Human Performance and Sports Science Center at that university, leading the cutting-edge research that's being done in human performance. Dr. Zernike was here in Calgary before. He was the first researcher to fill the prestigious Wood Professorship in Joint Injury Research when it was established back in 1994. He also had several other prominent roles during his time here in Calgary, including my role as director of the McCaig Institute. He was also the executive director of the Alberta Bone and Joint Health Institute, a special advisor to the president on health and wellness at the University of Calgary, and dean of the Faculty of Kinesiology, which is just an absolutely incredible faculty that is world-renowned. So we're grateful to have Dr. Zernike joining us here from Michigan to share this 30th anniversary with us. And I ask you to join me in welcoming him to the stage to talk a bit about the history and impact of this forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barnaby. And it's an incredible honor and privilege for me to be at this very special 30th anniversary of Dr. John and Christena Wood Forum and the Wood Professorship. Dr. and Mrs. Wood had an amazing commitment to support these public forums about joint injuries and arthritis. I had the privilege of being the Wood Professor, as was indicated, for 10 years while I was at the University of Michigan. There's an elderly slip there at the University of Calgary. Sorry about that. And basically, Dr. and Mrs. Wood had an amazing commitment to support these public forums. Mrs. Christena Wood was a person of phenomenal strength and positive spirit. She was only 28 when she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and that crippling disease caused her many years of pain and suffering. But she had an iron will. She never gave up. Every time I met with Chris, and when she would write to me, I was always amazed at her positive personality. She was warm, caring, and cheerful person. People who knew her were blessed because of having known her. Dr. John Wood achieved many honors in academics, athletics, business, and philanthropy. At the age of 16, he got a scholarship to go to the University of British Columbia. And I learned today from Donna, there was a little bit of mischievousness in his personality as well, but he went there to study engineering. He continued his education at Stanford University, where he received his PhD in civil engineering and engineering mechanics. He was a brilliant engineer. I remember, and there's one story I hope you maybe remember, when I was at a biomedical engineering conference at the University of California, San Diego, and I was talking to Professor Y.C. Fung, who was the legend in biomechanics. He was in his 80s, and he was know everything associated with biomechanics. And he noticed on my name tag, Wood Professor. And he said, Ron, I know a John Wood in Calgary. Do you know him? And I said, yes, I'm the Wood Professor. And he said, this is amazing. And he said, they had an opportunity to collaborate when Dr. Wood and also Y.C. Fung were at the California Institute of Technology, and they frequently interacted on research. And Dr. Fung then declared, John Wood was without a doubt the smartest engineer I have ever met. I mean, it was an incredible compliment to an incredible person. As you may know, Dr. Wood had an outstanding business career, and he held many positions at ATCO, culminating in his appointment as President and Chief Operating Officer when he retired in 1996. Both Dr. and Mrs. Wood were special people to many people. They were an incredible, dynamic team, their family, including Dr. Donna Wood and just having met the daughter, Jennifer. And their many friends miss them tremendously as part of the legacy to us as we have these public forums by experts in joint injury, who you'll be hearing from in just a few minutes, and really giving us the latest information about the battle against joint pain and arthritis and what we can do to remain healthy and mobile. Again, thank you to the Wood family and to the McWhae Institute for continuing these forums and for the benefit of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zernicke, for joining us from Michigan, coming all this way for this special Wood Forum, and for sharing your insights and reinforcing the legacy of the Wood Forum. Today we have a lineup of 3 clinician scientists who will shed light on the most recent research breakthroughs in spine health. We're also privileged to hear from an athlete who will talk about his experience living with ankylosing spondylitis and the role of exercise as a primary treatment. Our ability to move freely and engage in the activities we love relies heavily on the health and strength of our spines. Whether it's participating in sports, playing with our children or our grandchildren, exploring a hobby, or performing just everyday tasks, having a healthy spine is the backbone of enjoying life to the fullest. When our backs are not healthy, we know, and it can drastically affect how we live and enjoy life. Thankfully, though, for us, there are dedicated individuals who devote their careers to getting us back to mobility, and we are so fortunate to hear from them at the Wood Forum today. To initiate our program, we welcome Dr. Ganesh Swamy. His talk will delve into the most current understanding of how common spinal disorders develop and the research gaps yet to be filled. Dr. Swamy is a clinical assistant professor at the University of Calgary in the Cummings School of Medicine, as well as an orthopedic spine surgeon. His research focuses on sciatica pain caused by disc herniations and aims to help better identify patients who may require future surgical intervention. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Ganesh Swamy as he shares his research.
Good morning. My road to spine was a crooked one. I've always wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon and thought that I could help arthritic patients with their troubled arthritic joints. Joint replacements are some of the most powerful and cost-effective surgeries in all of medicine. I would have never considered spine at that time. It seemed too complicated, and the treatments didn't seem elegant. Unfortunately, in my last year of orthopedic training, I met a wonderful spine surgeon named Garth Johnson. He was a skilled surgeon, an amazing teacher, and had the power to make everything seem exciting. And he convinced me that much about spinal disorders remained unexplored. I could see also that treatment was changing and that there was many new technologies on the horizon that would make treatment better. I also was hooked. I knew spinal disorders are important and wanted to make a difference. We know the prevalence of spinal disease is tremendous, so let's have a little poll. How many of you have had back pain? Maybe raise your hands. Oh, that's tremendous. How about neck pain? Oof. And what about sciatica? My goodness. Fortunately, most of these problems in this room have likely been transient, but for many others, spinal disease are long-lasting and disabling. Spinal disease accounts for the most years lived with disability and is the 6th highest condition in terms of disability-adjusted life years world over. We've made very little progress in the past 20 years to improve this terrible statistic. Spinal disease has a point prevalence of about 10%, in contrast with 4% for osteoarthritis of the knee and 1% for hip osteoarthritis. I, and others, think that the intervertebral disc is the most important source of spinal disease. It's an amazing organ that sits between the vertebrae. It has no blood supply and is in an acidic and hypoxic environment, which generally we associate with death. The disc provides for tremendous motion, allowing all of us to pursue our daily activities, and like in the images on the right, allowing contortionists to perform crazy back bends. It is also under tremendous pressures. At rest, the pressure in your disc in L4-5 are roughly the same as an 18-wheel truck tire. When you bend over and pick up a modest weight, the pressures can quadruple, so 4 times an 18-wheel truck tire. As amazing as the spine is structurally, there is a problem. Evolution, or the creator, or whatever is your belief, led to an important design flaw. Our spines are meant to fail. As a result, there's a tremendous breadth of spinal conditions, all caused by different types of degenerative disc problems or spinal failure, and we call these conditions common degenerative spinal disorders. Our challenge is to identify the structural and biological reasons that this happens and that lead to pain and disability. For the most part, we don't know. Today, we'll talk about a few specific disorders that we've chosen to investigate further. And by the way, these drawings are from one of our graduate students, Valerie Cates, who is not just an amazing artist, but is studying how to better communication with patients about spinal surgeries. We'll first talk about intervertebral disc herniations. Here, a piece of disc cleaves off, departs from its home, and ends up in the spinal canal. This pushes directly on spinal nerves and causes tremendous inflammation. And the end result is sciatica, a screaming leg pain. It was in the 1930s that we first recognized this problem for what it is. Doctors Mixter and Barr from Harvard University published a paper suggesting that disc herniations were not tumors, as was previously thought, but more likely ruptures of the intervertebral disc. We now know that after the disc herniates, 85% of people improve spontaneously. The disc herniation in most people gradually becomes smaller. It doesn't go back into its original home. Moreover, the herniated piece becomes resorbed, or it dissolves. We think that the immune system is which usually functions to fight infections, is the dominant player. The problem is that when you herniate a disc, you don't know if you're going to be part of the 85% who will improve spontaneously, and we'll call this group resorbers, or if you'll be part of the 15% that need an operation after 3 months of waiting, and we'll call them non-resorbers. We thought that if we could distinguish between the two groups, we could then figure out what specific biological mechanisms are in play. And since the immune system is involved, we thought we'd look at the inflammatory system, specifically in the blood. So our first plan was to measure 48 proteins at a time and look for patterns of inflammation. Others in the Institute had done it for different types of arthritis. We then met an Institute member, Antoine, or Tony Dufour, who is a guru of proteomics. Proteomics is a science of measuring many different proteins at once with great accuracy. He introduced us to a few companies that could make tests in which you can measure 7,500 or even up to 10,000 proteins with great accuracy in a single vial of blood. More, we figured, is better. So we decided to use these high-tech assays. The next hurdle was to get patients. Before we set up the sciatica clinic, obtaining treatment with proper knowledge was very difficult. patients would present themselves to the emergency department or to the family doctor or to the chiropractor or to the physiotherapist with this severe pain. While there are some loose guidelines for care, there are certainly no clear treatment protocols for this problem, with a lot of diagnostic uncertainty early on, all making for confusion, treatment delays, and missed opportunities. So we set up a clinic to see these patients early. Our clinic started small during the COVID pandemic. We'd get a few referrals a week, then a half dozen, and now 10 or more patients a week. It feels like an indispensable service. We evaluate patients, offer a clear clinical diagnosis without the need for an MRI, and optimize non-surgical care. And the approach has really worked. We offer a service that helps patients get better faster and almost with no additional resources to the healthcare system. And interestingly, as had been predicted, 85% of patients are resorbers and got better with medical care alone, and 15% need surgical care. We've accelerated the whole process, mostly to the benefit of patients. So back to the science. With enough patients recruited, we sent off the blood samples and received massive amounts of data. The data are in a huge spreadsheet, 7,500 columns and many rows. And to analyze this data is a big challenge, so we employed machine learning protocols. Now, machine learning sounds fancy, but at its root, it's mathematical detection of patterns. We partnered with ML experts at the university, and to our surprise, we could identify a collection of 30 or 40 proteins that could predict whether you would be a resorber or a non-resorber. At first, we weren't sure the data were correct, sent off more samples to double check, and these differences have persisted. We don't necessarily understand what these proteins mean, but put together, they may be able to predict whether you'd be a resorber or non-resorber when you walk through the door with sciatica. We're pretty excited about this and planning to replicate and confirm the findings at bigger scale. We also want to figure out why the two groups are different so that we can eventually understand the mechanisms and design targeted treatments. If you could predict the course of your sciatica, it would be a huge change in the course of treatment. Non-resorbers could have surgery early. Resorbers could be reassured that their suffering is finite and wouldn't have to run around seeking other answers. In all, accurate predictions of sciatica is our goal. While we work with sciatica in the lab, we also work on other common spinal disorders. One such condition is degenerative scoliosis. Patients with degenerative scoliosis are amongst the most disabled in all of medicine. They can't sit for long. They can't stand for long. They have terrible back and leg pain. And for reasons that are yet unknown, 85% of these patients are women. And most of these women are postmenopausal. Leveraging the close collaborations between the surgeons at this institution and the institute, we have developed an intervertebral disc tissue bank with now over 200 samples of excised disc that we take during surgery. We think that the discs in degenerative scoliosis are soft and become increasingly soft with age and possibly with menopause. To do this work, we need a multidisciplinary team of scientists, students, and engineers. We have a lot of experiments planned in this realm. We want to understand why these discs are different and why this happens mainly in women. Stay tuned. A last type of investigation in our lab I'll talk to you about today is cervical disc degeneration. We're working on understanding the motion of cervical vertebrae in great detail with a cutting-edge technology. Dual fluoroscopy can, with an accuracy of about 1 millimeter and a degree, show us how bones move in three-dimensional space. We can then use this technology to understand how cervical spines move with degeneration and cause pain, and how disc replacements could work or how they could fail. As you can gather, we have lots of work to do. We integrate lots of technologies and experts to study common spinal disorders. We've been training lots of students who learn about spinal disorders and do all the work that we've been chatting about today. Some of these young people will become investigators themselves and discover new findings. Some of them may find new treatments, like building disc replacements, that really work. Overall, we seek to build an ecosystem of excellence around spinal disorders. Now, we're lucky not only to have the personnel, expertise, and facilities, but we're also lucky that we have very generous, amazing philanthropic funding. My wife and I are good friends with Sam Shaknowich and his late wife, Geraldine. The topics of conversation were generally dogs and hockey. Out of the blue one day, Sam asked me what we did in the lab. And after a brief explanation, he asked, do we need more money? I, of course, said yes. With a generous gift, they have established the Mrs. Geraldine and Dr. Sam Shaknowich Chair of Spinal Research. They've also pledged an even larger gift, which will fuel many years of future high-quality spinal research. We're really grateful to Sam and Jerry. Their gift will keep us on the frontier of spinal research for many, many years. In closing, the understanding of spinal diseases is in its very early days. We've made very little progress, unfortunately, in decreasing spine-related disability. But with clear focus and lots of energy, I hope that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for sharing your important and very hopeful research. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Fred Nicholls, who will enlighten us about the importance of the Calgary Normative Spine Database. Dr. Nicholls is an orthopedic surgeon specializing in spine surgery with a focus on complex trauma and spinal deformity. As resident education lead and director of the Spine Fellowship Program at the University of Calgary, he also trains future spine surgeons. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nicholls as he shares his research and insights on spine health.
Thanks very much. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for inviting me today. So Dr. Swamy just talked to you about how spinal diseases start and how he's working on preventing them from even happening in the first place. Dr. Cadotte later on is going to talk to you about how we predict who will end up needing the services that we provide. We're all looking to the future. It's, after all, why we do research, to affect the future of the field we are dedicating our lives to. I will speak to you more about trying to change the way we perform the surgeries themselves. The more immediate future, the future that Dr. McWhae is going to talk to you about potentially preventing. There have been a lot of giants in the field of spinal deformity surgery that have established themselves, showing us how to shape the spine, what the shape of the spine is, and how we hold it there when we're finished with our surgeries. These are geniuses, and they've changed the lives of millions of people. All of them have been right, but somehow they have also all been completely wrong. So this might be controversial, but if they are completely right, how is it that we can perform procedures exactly to their specifications for every available metric, and yet still have patients that are either unhappy or whose surgeries fall apart? There are now an entire series of different theories for what shape we should hold the spine in. Some of the criteria we've used include simple angular measurements, while others strive to provide an overall description of the shape of the mid and low back. Some consider averages for populations as a whole, and some, in turn, are highly categorical. We know that the truth is likely more individualized, and yet we struggle to identify what the defining characteristics are. Maybe that's because we have to choose a position in which to leave the spine when we're done, whether that be a position that's more suitable for standing, maybe one for lying down or sitting, or one that's more suitable in turn for activity. What you will notice when you're looking at some of the attempts at defining the shape of the spine that I put up just before is that they all kind of end at the shoulders. I realized as I was fusing people's necks that the exact shape was very poorly described. I spoke with Pierre Roussely about his work defining the shape of the spine and asked why he hadn't extended it up any higher. He told me that there's just too much variability and he could never get enough volunteers to clearly show defining patterns. So I may not be capable of abstracting the true nature of the shape of the spine, or I may not have been able to see as many patients yet in my career as he has in his kind of storied career to this point. But one thing that I can do is put together a bigger group of people to look for those patterns. And so that's what I set out to do. Part of the reason that I'm able to do that work is the supportive environment that I'm lucky enough to work in. When I expressed an interest in studying this, my colleagues offered a lot of support, knowing full well that it may take decades for me to answer some of these questions. I've spoken at multiple institutions about the concept of academic medicine and the environment in which that occurs. We're extremely lucky that through the support of the McWhae Institute, our institution has a greater interest in fostering the academics that work there's own interests over simply volume or productivity. So I set out to recruit this large group of healthy volunteers and obtain imaging of their entire skeletons. I found software that would allow me to synthesize the shape of the spines down to Cartesian coordinates, future-proofing my database such that we would never have to remeasure if we could do it properly the first time. The first thing we were able to do was validate Roussely's categorical descriptions of the different shapes of the spine and the distributions of those different shapes through our population. We then started taking a look at how that shape extends up into the neck. And what we found very quickly was that there wasn't really a direct association, and we ran into a bit of a hurdle there. And the McWhae was able to connect us with machine learning experts that took us on a different route to looking at how the shapes of the neck were categorically separated. We've been able to define 3 separate shapes for the normal cervical spine. And what you'll notice is that only one of those groups follows the very classically defined C-shaped curve of the cervical spine, and that 60% of people are walking around with a little bit of a hitch in the middle. Not only did we look up above, but we also looked down below. There has been a long-standing disconnect between hip surgeons and spine surgeons. However, invariably, the kind of people that develop arthritis in their backs also develop arthritis in their hips. And what we've noticed is when we change the shape of people's backs, it sets the position of their hip differently, and they can frequently have their joint replacement fall apart. We've taken this same database of young, healthy people and been able to show a relationship between the way the spine takes off out of the pelvis and the shape and location of the cup portion of the hip joint. We've also been able to take long-standing, dogmatically held understandings of the shape of the low back and how it comes off the pelvis and show that uniformity isn't really an actual thing. There is a huge distribution amongst the normal population, and that maybe one of the reasons that we're failing with some of our surgeries is we're all trying to correct to an average ideal instead of moving more towards an individualized shape for the low back. We've even been able to take some of the most modern ways of looking at posture and balance in people and show variety and distribution across the population. Now what we're trying to do is look at people in a longitudinal sense. One of our biggest criticisms when we've been trying to publish this work and release it, is that how do we apply a database of young, healthy people between 20 and 40 years of age to the people that most frequently suffer from these problems, who are much older? And so we were able to link up with another group of researchers in New York who have a much smaller but wider age-ranged group of volunteers, and show that before 50 years of age, we don't see a lot of difference in the shape of the spine. So we started thinking, what sort of life events might occur between 20 and 40 years of age, or even 40 and 50 years of age, that could lead to that degeneration and change in alignment parameters? One of the first things that we've hit on is pregnancy and childbearing, and we now have a large study underway bringing back the women in our study to see what sort of changes in the shape of their backs and the shape of their pelvises occur with childbearing, both on a temporary and on a permanent level. We are also adding granularity to that data. We've developed an app that passively collects activity data on the subjects of this study and feeds it back to give us context on how exercise may affect the development of degeneration. I think Dr. McWhae is also going to talk to you about that. We all have a relative that lives to be 90 without ever looking after themselves. And so how exercise relates to degeneration remains a little bit unclear. By no means am I one of the giants that I showed you earlier. I do this research so that I can gain a deeper understanding of the alignment and shape of the spine. It's my hope, though, that this work will serve future generations of spine surgeons and allow people to learn without having to repeat the work that I'm doing here. I recognize the value of this data, and I know that I could probably monetize that by selling it to some insurance company and maybe even retire at the end of that, but I choose not to do that. The reason that I'm allowed that choice is because of the assistance that all of you provide. And I hope that one day I'll foster a better understanding of the natural shape of the spine, how to achieve a shape that resists failure and allows people to participate in all of their desired activities without compromise. We're getting closer, we're tightening up these distributions, and by the next opportunity I have to come and speak with you, I expect that we'll have a little bit more clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholls, and we look forward to your return visit very much. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Manny Ester, a passionate physical activity researcher and exercise specialist. Manny's research as a postdoctoral student at the McCaig Institute focuses on helping those with inflammatory arthritis, cancer, and other chronic conditions. And today, he will guide us through movement for mobility. Now, this session is designed to be accessible and inclusive, so we encourage all of you to give it a try. And following Manny's session, that's when we're going to take our short break. And then we'll resume the program at 10:40. And then we'll hear from our remaining presenters and get interactive with our speakers in our Q&A and draw for some fabulous door prizes. So make sure that you have added your name for a chance to win, and you must be present to win those door prizes. So, without further ado, I'm not going to say, let's move Dr. Ester. I'm going to say, let's move, Manny. Let's move. Movement is medicine, right?
You got it.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. What an awesome turnout we have today. So what we're going to do right now is just a little bit of a mobility break. We're going to try to take you to a quick 10-minute journey through some of the different aspects you might want to think about when it comes to exercise. And we have our awesome support co-lead here, Leah. She's going to be doing lots of options in a seated way. So if you prefer to stay seated, or if you want to stand for part of this and then sit down, you're always going to have options to follow along with. All right, so with that, I'm going to invite everyone who is able to and would like to stand up with me, and everyone else is just going to keep checking out and following along with Leah. And we're just going to move together in a nice, gentle way. So we're just going to start by just getting our legs moving. You can follow along with me, or if you want to, you can just get your arms tapping like that. And I know our arm space might be a little bit limited, so try not to whack your neighbor, but do whatever you can with your arms. So maybe it's some nice little shoulder rolls, or maybe it's some arm circles, big ones, if you got lots of space. And we're just going to get a little healthy timer going here because we don't want to take you over time. So, awesome. Look at almost everyone standing up. We got some people participating seated. This is great. Lots of smiles on faces. See what exercise does, not just physical, but mental benefits right away. Awesome. So we're going to take that from a little bit of a walk with the arms moving to a little bit of a march. So what we're going to do now is get those knees a little bit higher if we can, and if we're so coordinated, we can get our legs moving with our arms at the same time. And awesome, look at we've got all our presenters helping along, moving along. This is good, okay. We can keep that march going. And look at everyone moving along. This is our first chapter of our movement journey, which is our cardiovascular exercise. We're going to wrap it up in about 30 seconds from now. So if you want to go a little faster, if you're like, this is easy peasy, you can speed it up. If you don't, you don't have to. What we always say in our exercise classes, and when I teach exercise, is listen to your body first and my voice second. So that's important because everyone moves a little differently, and that's okay. That's what this is all about. Okay, 10 more seconds. See if anyone races to the finish line with me. Whew. Sweating up here. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, awesome. Let's shake it out. Does that feel good for anyone? Okay, awesome. So our next journey, chapter 2 of our journey, is going to be a little bit of strength training. And I know when we say strength training, people might get a little intimidated and they're like, I'm not a strong person, but we're going to use our body weight. We're going to do a little bit of strength work, and everyone's going to, again, listen to their body for this one and my voice second. So exercise 1, if you want to grab onto the front of your chairs a little bit for support, that might be something that's going to help you with stability, is going to be calf raises. So what we're going to do is we're just going to raise up onto our toes. So this might not look like much, but I'm going to try my best to come up onto my toes, and you're going to feel the calves right back here starting to work. I see some head nods. Awesome. Thanks for the feedback. So we're just going to start with that. Well, calf raise, if you're seated, you can just press your toes into the ground as you lift your heels. Pretty cool. Those leg muscles are going to start working. Okay. And now if you're feeling good with that, what you can add as you come back down to your heels is just a little mini squat like this, as far as you can go, space permitting. Okay, awesome. We'll start another timer here. Won't keep you too long for this one. We'll do 40 seconds here on this one. So doing what we can, and I see nice little rhythm of different people, different times. Awesome. And if you're seated, you're just joining Leah with either some leg extensions, or you could do calf raises. I was testing the leg extensions on the seats earlier, and it was kind of hitting the front of the seat, so we'll see. Okay, awesome. So legs are maybe feeling it a little bit. We've got 20 more seconds, don't worry. Look at this awesome team of support you've got doing the exercise with you. So up and down. Okay, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, maybe one last one, and awesome. Okay, that is our leg strength. I'll shake those legs out. And we'll go up to the arms. So second part of our chapter 2 is going to be some arm strength, and you're probably wondering, we don't have any weights here, bands. How can we do this? So let me show you. If you want to bring your arms out either like this or to the front, I know space is a little limited, and we're just going to start doing some little pulses, arm circles. First 10 seconds, you're probably like, oh, this is easy peasy. Second 10 seconds, maybe it's going to start to burn a little bit. And that's normal. You should be feeling right up in here, trying to stay a little loose through the neck. So a tendency is to kind of tense up here. Keep that neck down. Okay. Now we're into like seconds 20 to 30. Start to feel that burn. Maybe switch directions a little bit. Oh my goodness. Arms are so heavy. What the heck? Okay. We'll keep it going. And last 20 seconds, this is where we get all of our workout benefit here. Arms are burning. Maybe we're feeling it. Switching sides again. Look at this. This is awesome. We're about to like start flying off here. Looking good. And 10 seconds. You got this. Keep those arms up. I know it's hurting. It's hurting. I see some people grimacing. We're there in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Oh my goodness. That was so tiring. I just love those reactions. Okay, that's our chapter 2 done. We did the hard parts. Cardio, strength. Chapter 3, our last chapter, is going to be a little bit of balance and flexibility. So shake it out. We've got a couple more minutes to go. First part is going to be some balance. So again, for this one, if you want to hold on one arm or two arm in front of you to your chair, if you want to do this one seated, you can do that as well. So this is just going to start with a little single leg stand. And then as you're comfortable, you're just going to join. I'll make it progressively harder, but you don't have to join to the next level. You just do what feels good for you. So even if you're hovering your toe on the ground, that's okay. If you can kind of lift up, stay here. Arms can be on the chair. Awesome. I'll make sure to get both sides. And if you're with Leah, you're just lifting one leg and you're shifting side to side a little bit. Okay, how's that feeling? If you're feeling good, I'm going to invite you to lift maybe one arm, two arms up. Whew, a little shaky here. I see some sways. That's okay. If this is hard, it means you're getting more benefit out of it. So that's perfect. Okay, and then last one, if there's space in front of you, if you can lift your leg just a little bit higher. I know that the knee is maybe a little bit tight. If you can lift up here. Whew. Okay, and keep breathing. When we balance, we tend to just like hold our breath the whole time. That makes it even way harder. So, oh my goodness, we got a good balanced crowd. Okay, 10 more seconds there, you got it. If you fall, just put your foot down, come right back up, you got it. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, awesome. Deep breath, shake that leg up, maybe you got a little tight. We're gonna go to the other side, and no worries if this one's harder. It is for me. I've had a pretty bad ankle injury on this right side, so if you see me shaking around, don't worry. So again, step 1, we're gonna bring the arms just in somewhere here, get up on the toe, and then lift that leg up as we can. Okay, looking good. See, I'm already feeling shaky. Maybe it's the nerves. Okay, and step 2, raising one arm, two arms. You can bring them out here to whatever feels good for you, as high as you can. Okay, oh my goodness. I might fall on stage here, but we've got doctors right over there, so we're good. Okay, and then if you're feeling good for it, you can lift your leg a little bit higher to wherever you can, space permitting. Okay, awesome. Everyone looks more balanced than me. This is how it goes. Hey, you come to demo and then everyone looks so good out there. Okay, we got 10 more seconds. You got this. Maybe the hip's starting to feel it a little bit. That's okay. Keep the knee bent. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I just about made it. Great. So last one. This is going to be the easiest one. It's going to be a little side-to-side stretch. So bring your arms up like this. Join me. And then just nice and easy, as far as you're comfortable. Again, if there's anything with the spine going on where this doesn't feel great, you can just reach straight up. Otherwise, leaning one side or the other. You're going to start to feel that nice stretch all the way up the side of the body. And as we start to limber up, maybe we're just dropping a little bit further. If that hurts, just keep it there. Listen to your body. Okay. And we'll switch over to the other side. Again, nice and easy, no rush here. Awesome. And then we'll take a deep breath. Last up, we always want to set our posture up, even though we're going for our break. So a couple little shoulder rolls. So we go forward, up, back, and down. And we'll do that. We'll do like 5 of those shoulder rolls. We're looking good out there. We're ready for 10 more minutes of exercise. What do you think? No, not this time. Next time, maybe. Okay, and keeping those shoulders down and back and finishing up. And once again, thank you for moving with me. That's a little quick journey through exercise. Awesome. And enjoy the break. We'll see you after the break. Thank you, everyone.
So again, we'll be back at 10:40 to continue the program. Remember the door prizes: dinner, Sky 360, long table, afternoon tea at the Spruce Meadows Christmas Market. We'll see you back here at 10:40. Thank you, Manny. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just give you another 45 seconds or so to settle yourselves, and we'll get ready for the second half of the program. Thank you. Isn't that nice to have a break in the middle? Thumbs up for the break in the middle, everyone. How about Manny, Dr. Ester? Yes. Speaking of movement, and we will continue the movement theme momentarily with Dr. Hutchison and chair yoga for the spine, but first we have our next speaker. And so I think we've got most of our attendees coming in through the back. Thank you very much and welcome back. And now we have the privilege, I just want to make sure, oh, he is here. Okay, we have the privilege of hosting Dr. John McWhae, who will delve into the role of exercise as a primary treatment for ankylosing spondylitis. Dr. McWhae is a Calgary ophthalmologist and a lifelong athlete who was diagnosed with this type of arthritis at age 35, although he had shown symptoms as early as 15. Dr. McWhae has demonstrated remarkable resilience, and it's through cycling that he has seen improvement in his symptoms, leading him to be an advocate for integrating exercise into treatment plans for chronic conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. John McWhae.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here and speaking to you about something dear to my heart. So I am a physician, as mentioned, but I'm speaking to you today as a patient. And some of the photos are from my not-for-profit photographic business. So if you aren't a patient yet, you will be. And so what can you do? What's your side of the equation on illness? We've been thinking about what all the doctors can do. Well, what can we do for ourselves? So ankylosing spondylitis I've had for about 45 years. It's a condition that is variable in severity, but it can be debilitating or debilitating at times. For myself, I've had many manifestations of it, but the most continuous thing has been my feet. And things like a museum visit or a stand-up social function are really difficult for me, although I can do a lot of other things, as you'll find out. So since I've had the condition, it's been renamed twice, and it hasn't helped. Still, no one can say it and no one can spell it. And that's just the way it is. So I hope that the fourth one will be better. So my journey included a number of empowerments from various sources, and we'll talk about where that can lead. So my current treatment is exercise-based, many hours a week, and I use my exercise also for treating acute flare-ups. For example, if my back was terrible, in the past that would involve an appointment with my physio, taking a bunch of medications, maybe seeing my doctor. Now it involves me hobbling out to my bike. It's quite a sight to see if anyone's watched it, and I get on it and I go for 2 or 3 hours and I come back and I'm good and I haven't accessed the healthcare system. Similarly with my feet, strangely, the best thing is to get on a stand-up paddleboard and go for an hour. So when you do these things, when you learn these things, you'll see your healthcare team less, but they'll like you. So as a young person, I did the typical pounding and slamming sports, which are hard on joints. And I ended up having to give up all of these sports. And in '95, I had a terrible flare-up and was off work for months. And I was beginning to feel like a patient, and I just desperately wanted some sort of cure. And I met a wonderful physio, and she suggested I needed to move side to side. So this is Nordic skate skiing. So I took up Nordic skate skiing. And my first ski was 2 kilometers. My second, 2 days later, was 4 kilometers, another rest day, 6 kilometers, until I got to 40 kilometers, and then I was ready to go back to work. So the second step, more empowerment, is always important. It's like the second date. If you don't continue it, well, that's about it. So I began to rebuild and expand my toolbox, and I rollerbladed for the years that I couldn't ride a bike, and always with full safety equipment. So here I am Nordic skiing. Nordic is the light, fast side of cross-country skiing. This is classic technique. And on this slide, on the right, you see my wife, Sandra, snowshoeing. Canadians need a winter sport. We really do. I mean, you can do everything indoors. There are options, but to have an outdoor winter sport is great. Snowshoeing, you really can't hurt yourself. And you really don't need a lot of lessons or equipment. Backcountry skiing. This is going up using climbing skins for traction. This, with my foot in a rigid boot, I can do this for a week and I'm 100% comfortable and just having fun. And coming down is definitely fun, very soft, very smooth. So after 10 years, I found a way to ride a bike again. I had tried several recumbent bikes, and then I got on one and I knew I could ride it, and I was back on the road and I was feeling very excited. And after 3 years, I was to the point where I could actually dream about things. So being a dreamer is something an athlete does. It's also something academics do, as we've heard from my colleagues. And I had the idea that I wanted to ride a bike across Alberta in daylight, having not ridden for 10 of the 13 prior years. So I built a fast, well, no, this one I bought. I bought a fast bike, and you can see the powerful effect he had on people. So the fourth empowerment actually came from a whiplash injury. I was rear-ended, and I had to take a week off, which meant I had lots of time to think about things, and I thought it was time to move on to more ambitious projects. So I ordered a frame, and I built Massimo. Now, Massimo's actually here today. So we'll bring him out. He's not very shy, don't worry. So among other things, I use principles I learned from occupational therapists, designing this bike to be totally comfortable and fast. So then it was time to do a 300-kilometer ride. I wanted to do a longer ride than I'd done before I took on the province of Alberta. So I decided to ride from home in Calgary, west to Kananaskis, south over Highwood Pass, which is the highest paved road in Canada. The summit's 2,200 meters, 7,300 feet. And here I am on the summit, and I'm smiling because I've just finished 150 kilometers uphill, and now I have 150 kilometers downhill to work my way back to Calgary from the south. Now, this was the final empowerment that actually got the idea in my head that I wanted to treat my condition primarily with exercise. I didn't want to be on an immunosuppressant during COVID, given there was concerns about heightened chance of infection and potential immunization exclusions. So with my very progressive rheumatologist, the plan was I would increase my hours substantially and stop my medication, and that was 4 years ago. I'm finished with that. So what does this actually look like? Thank you. Okay, this is what it looks like. Now this is me currently trying to treat without any medication, but the principles are the same. Details are critical. If you're not a detail person, make an exception. So it's got to be safe. You don't want to crash trying to improve your health, and you take a crash because you don't have the right equipment or the right safety equipment, or you're out with people who don't know what they're doing. So you have to be very careful. Most of my mileage is very, very easy, but I do a lot of mileage. And there's lots of people, professionals, and things that you can use to help. And I say that you need to be aware of competition, even informal. When you're using exercise, you need to go at a pace that works for you, and you need to do things that work for you. So don't get caught up in the local spontaneous bike race unless you're feeling really good and you have thousands of kilometers behind you. So this month that's showing here has just happened. That was September this year. So I exercised 20 days, 70 hours, almost 1,400 kilometers on the bike, and almost 8,000 meters of vertical climbing. Oh, and that's some of the tools. And that's towing the world's largest dump truck. It was actually pretty hard. So with a fantastic partner and a team, you can try something ambitious, even with arthritis, if you're prepared for it. It was time to take on the ride across Alberta. I was partnered with McWhae Institute to increase awareness of exercise for arthritis. We had some issues. We had 3 flat tires, some nutritional issues, which led to some cramping. But our team addressed all of these things, and we were all really busy with all this stuff going on. So the time for the crossing was 11 hours and 39 minutes, and the average ride speed was 37.2 kilometers an hour. I actually rode for 10 hours. And if you look at the two graphics, they actually represent the same thing. So on the left side is BC-Alberta border, on the right side is Alberta-Saskatchewan border, and you can see my route across southern Alberta. The speed graph shows the speed across that distance. In order to average high 30s, you need to be riding faster than that because there's always slowdowns and hills. So most of the time is spent between 40 and 50K an hour. Just some kid going for a bike ride. This is early in the day. That's Crow's Nest Mountain behind. Cruising along, you can see my support vehicle behind. And here we go, only 300 more kilometers to go. So I wanted to do a Nordic World Cup ski race in 2010. In 2010, I didn't ski all season. I had a major flare-up. However, I did in 2022. So this was the longest and first international level race I've done. It was at the Canmore Nordic Center, and it was a wonderful experience. And it goes to show you that dinosaurs can ski. So then I wanted to actually do a recumbent bike race, and there are none in Canada. So the closest one was a world 6-hour time trial in California, and we did a bit of research and thought we'd give it a go. So what the time trial format means, you can't draft behind other bikes, and the goal is how far can you ride in 6 hours. So with the various problems that I had, we really weren't experienced for this level of race. I actually rode for 5 hours. I covered 179 kilometers, and that was good enough to win the men's recumbent division. Okay. So, some things to think about. I have been able to actually get to the point of treating my arthritis primarily with exercise. It is a huge time commitment. I've learned that illness has a schedule of its own, and you have to be flexible. The ride across Alberta happened 13 years later than first planned. My Masters World Cup was 12 years later than planned, and the final event actually was as planned. You don't beat chronic illness, but you can influence it through exercise, and occasionally you can show it who's boss. So if you haven't taken the first step, then I'd encourage you to take the first step. It started with one physio suggesting one thing for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. McWhae. Did you want to add anything with Massimo?
Well, yeah, this is him.
So did you actually, sorry, I'm kind of going off script a bit, but did you constructed this then?
I did, yes. I bought the frame. So in working with occupational therapists years ago, I learned a lot about ergonomics, and then along the way, I've learned to work with carbon fiber, titanium, aluminum, whatever.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Do you have this as a sideline business? Can we order these bikes? Thank you, Dr. McWhae. Very, very inspiring, and yeah.
Okay.
Yes, movement is medicine. I just like to always reiterate that and reiterate in my own mind how important it is we try to keep moving. Today we have the honor of hearing from Dr. David Cadotte, who will delve into the transformative potential of artificial intelligence in addressing spine disorders. Dr. Cadotte is a neurosurgeon and an assistant professor in the Department of Clinical Neurosciences at the University of Calgary. His medical and academic career has been dedicated to advancing neurosurgical techniques with the aim of improving quality of life for Albertans. Hear, hear. Please join me in welcoming Dr. David Cadotte as he reveals how AI can help us all down the road. Thank you.
Thanks. There we go. Thanks for having me. This is a wonderful event. I participated in this event 4 years ago, and it's really a pleasure to be back. So thanks to the organizers. So I'm a surgeon, and after an undergraduate degree and 4 years of medical school, I studied for another 10 years at the University of Toronto with a PhD in medical imaging, and another year at the University of Calgary to train as a spine surgeon. And during this time, I was taught to think about the human axial skeleton, how it develops, how it changes as we age, how our daily habits affect the human spine. I think about how our genes interact with our environment. I feel compassion for people that suffer from spine-related pain and other arthritic diseases. And I was it was a bit fortunate for me to grow up during this era, because I think the rapid growth in our ability to treat spinal disorders coincided nicely with my education. Really, from 1990 to the present time, the techniques that we have and the device companies that have emerged have allowed us to do remarkable things. And now we're starting to recognize the limitations of these techniques and these devices, and more so the limitations of our healthcare system, our healthcare environment. For example, the wait times to see people like me is months and sometimes years. And this is awful for people that are suffering in pain. So I propose to you that the next era of growth in treating spinal disorders will come with the use of artificial intelligence. So today I want to tell you about the degeneration of the human cervical spine, something that's estimated to affect about 400 new patients each year in southern Alberta alone, from Red Deer south. It's probably a low estimate, but that's the best number I could come up with. And as these intervertebral discs degenerate and other bony and ligamentous structures wear out over time, this can put pressure on your spinal cord. And collectively, patients present with numb, clumsy hands, trouble walking, balance problems, and if left untreated in dire circumstances, people lose the ability to walk or feed yourself. And it's my job as a spine surgeon to make this diagnosis and to predict if you will get worse without surgery, or to predict if surgery will help you. So here's how we think about these problems. These are two patients that are sitting in front of you in your office, okay? That you meet them after they've been referred from another doctor. They're one of many people that visit your clinic on any given day. You have about 30 minutes, maybe 60 minutes, to meet them, to learn about their story, to take their clinical history, to review their medical history, examine their neurological function, review imaging studies such as these 2 MRIs that are shown here, and communicate your thoughts to these patients. You want to encourage the patient who will deteriorate to have surgery, to take on the risk of our hands in the operating room in order to stave off the possibility of neurological deficits in the future. You also want to encourage the patient who will not deteriorate to avoid the operating room, to avoid the possible complications of surgery or the consequences of changing the biomechanics of the human spine. So to help make the best decisions, surgeons use an enormous amount of data. We integrate hundreds of variables on hundreds of patients each year. We read and we study the scientific literature for unique insights into this disease process and treatment options. We're vulnerable to biases, fatigue, and other psychological errors in decision making. And these are the things that artificial intelligence can help us with. So here's our two patients again. I saw both of these patients in my clinic. I enrolled them in a national study, and I saw them back 6 months after our index visit. And unfortunately, one of these patients deteriorated. They came back and their hands were numb. They showed progression of this disease. So I presented these two patients to my spine colleagues. We have biannual events. One's coming up next week where we sit around a table and talk about problems. There's 10 of us around the table. Both of these patients had a similar constellation of symptoms. They had comparable MRI profiles that you can see on the screen. Both had compression of their cervical spinal cord. And I asked the group of surgeons to tell me which patient got worse and why. Could I have changed my predictive elements in these cases? And not one of them, despite 100 years of collective experience, got the answer right. So which one of those 3,000 variables should dominate your decision making? How do you make that decision? And this is the type of question that's perfect for artificial intelligence. Thousands of patients across the country, all experiencing the same effects of spinal cord compression. And with this large data set, our machine learning algorithms and other artificial intelligence techniques were able to come up with an answer. The algorithm was able to pick out the most important feature that the surgeon, me, should have put at the top of their list in that decision making. The fact that the patient on the left has a spinal canal that is 20% smaller than average. So we published this result. You can read the names of our outstanding group of surgeons, and you'll recognize a few of them. We all contribute data for this purpose of learning and improving care. And we were able to come up with a list of features that offer predictions as to which patients are more likely to deteriorate, and use this data to build decision-making tools. And within each one of these amorphic blobs that you can see on the screen here exists a set of features that tells us that some patients are at higher risk of deteriorating and as others are at a lower risk of deteriorating. And this slide breaks down that risk stratification. The patient that I told you about, the patient that I just told you about that came back with numb hands, fits into the red box on the left of the screen. This is the highest likelihood of deteriorating. We found that the notion of pressure on the spinal cord, something that every spine surgeon looks for to clinch the diagnosis of degenerative cervical myelopathy, but also to plan surgical intervention, is by itself not a strong indicator that a patient will progress in terms of their disease. It turns out that the problem is much more nuanced than that. And being born with a small spinal canal may be a more important predictor of deterioration. So 5 years from now, we will not let that patient on the left-hand side of the screen deteriorate. We'll trust our predictive models, and we'll prevent the next generation of patients from experiencing neurological injury. So despite my decade-long educational journey to study diseases of the human spine, there's much more to learn. Computers are driving us to learn new things. Our next set of problems to solve are focused on streamlining the patient experience. How do we eliminate these long triage wait times? How do we collect the necessary data as soon as the patient reports a problem? How do we deliver all of this information to the patient and to the surgeon so that they can focus on implementing these advanced techniques that have emerged over the last couple of decades? So that the surgeon can express compassion for these problems, the patient can experience that, and they can work on a treatment plan together. These artificial intelligence techniques and the compute power of modern data processing will take the problem of data integration and predictive analytics away from the busy, fatigued surgeon and allow them to focus on the aspects of their training as a doctor that are important to us as a society. Compassion for the disease and the skill of their hands to help fix these problems. Thanks very much, and I'm sure we'll engage in a lively discussion with everyone on the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Cadotte. Always nice to hear the positives of AI, because we always hear so many negatives in our brains, and it's always nice to hear those positive aspects as we move into the future. Now, momentarily, I'm going to invite Dr. Hutchison to the stage to lead our chair yoga for the spine, but just a quick reminder that we do have our Q&A. It is coming up right after the yoga session, and then we will be drawing for our fabulous door prizes. So once again, that is dinner for two at Sky 360 at the top of the Calgary Tower, and then there will be 2 opportunities for you to take part in the Spruce Meadows long table afternoon tea at the Spruce Meadows International Christmas Market. That is always a wonderful event. So again, you must be present to win. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Carolyn Hutchison, an esteemed orthopedic surgeon and dedicated yoga instructor. Dr. Hutchison has spent over 13 years teaching various paths of yoga, focusing on making classes accessible for seniors and individuals managing arthritis. And I personally have benefited from Dr. Hutchison's hip knee yoga at Westside Rec. Thank you, Dr. Hutchison. Please welcome to the stage. And again, this session is designed to be inclusive and accessible, so we do encourage you to try to participate. I, in particular, are looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's so good to see everyone here. And thank you so much to the organizers. This is a fabulous event, and the presenters. This has just been a wonderful day. So we'll begin in our seated posture. See if you can create a bit of a long spine. Reach your sit bones down into the chair. And let the crown of your head reach up to the sky. Yoga is actually less about the flexibility of the body and more about the flexibility of the heart and the mind. Atta Yoga Nushasanam. Yoga is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And now the teachings on yoga begin. Yoga is the settling of the mind. When the mind is settled, we are established in our essential nature. Our essential nature is often overshadowed by the activities of the mind. These are the first 4 verses of the Yoga Sutras, the Threads of Truth, written down by Patanjali. So in our body here, where we feel at home, we start to settle the mind. And as we begin our yoga practice together, we ask ourselves, what is the gentlest way in? And we ask our body, or tell our body perhaps. I said to my body, I want to be your friend. My body took a long sigh and replied, I've been waiting my whole life for this. So with our body as friends, if you feel most comfortable seated, you can stay in your chair and move like this. If you'd like to stand, as I did notice many of you stood for Manny's exercise class, we can actually begin our chair yoga standing in front of our chair. We've been sitting a little bit, and the spine does like a little bit of movement. And as the presenters have already relayed to us, there's so much interconnectivity between the pelvis and the spine. So we'll begin by just circling our pelvis around. And imagine you're standing in a pool of water, and you're just sending ripples of energy out from you, interconnecting with everyone else in the pool. And the next time the pelvis comes around to the front, we'll just circle in the opposite direction, starting to free up, create some fluidity in the body. Our body is about 75% water. Water is an element that has a capacity to be both solid, fluid, and steam. It has a capacity to change. And so we start to move, and we start to feel the fluidity of our body. And then we'll create a stable stance with our feet as wide apart as is comfortable for you. Let your hands come down by your sides, and we'll build the posture from the ground up. We always begin by honoring Mother Earth, our root support. So feel your feet connecting to Mother Earth. There's a reason we call the bottoms of our feet the soul. Our soul connected into our united Mother Earth. And feel that connection under the balls of your feet and your heels, and then allow a little lifting up through the arch of your foot perhaps, and a lightness in the toes. You might even lift the toes up in your shoes a little bit, and then just kiss them back down so the toes are just gently kissing the earth. And then feel the energy start to flow up the inner line of the legs and pool at the base of your pelvis. And for a moment, just engage those muscles at the pelvic floor, Mula Bandha. We have an energy lock at the base of our pelvis. Feeling that lift up, and the navel point will draw back towards the spine. And we start to feel everything is hugging the central axis, our spinal column, Sushumna Nadi. Breathing here, we roll the shoulders down our back, as though your shoulder blades are like a waterfall, and they're sliding down the back, and the palms turn open to the front to encourage us to open our heart as we elongate our collarbones, and that creates space for the neck now. As we've just heard, we'll gently press the chin back and reach the crown of our head up to the sky. And if your balance is good, you might even close your eyes for a moment and just check in with your body here in the posture of Tadasana, mountain pose. And once we've created this posture, we can invite the breath in. Start to deepen and lengthen your breath. A long inhale, perhaps a pause at the top of the inhale, and then a complete slow exhale, and a pause on empty. Continue to create your own rhythm with the breath, inhaling deeply and fully, exhaling slowly and completely. Feel the body expanding, the rib cage expanding out in all directions with your inhale. And on the exhale, imagine your spine elongating rather than collapsing. We're elongating the crown of our head up into the heavens. Deep inhales and exhales. And if you did close your eyes down, softly blink them open. Then we'll inhale and sweep the arms up overhead. Grasp your left wrist with your right hand. Take a deep inhale, stretching along your left side body. Squeeze those muscles in the pelvic floor again, Mula Bandha, and then slowly lean a little bit over to the right side. Breathe into the left side body, expanding those intercostal muscles and the rib cage, creating more space for your breath. Feeling the weight evenly distributed between both feet. And find that pelvic floor muscle again, Mula Bandha. That's our root support. We'll inhale back to the center, then switch wrists. We'll reach for the other wrist. Take a deep inhale, lengthen along the right side body, and then slowly lean over to the left. Breathing into your right side body, maybe even feeling the stretch all the way through the skin. Beautiful. Then inhale back to the center. Stretch both fingertips up to the sky. Exhale, bring your hands in front of your heart. Take a deep inhale. Fill your heart up. Exhale, shine your palms forward. The hands are connected to our heart chakra, Anahata. Inhale, draw the energy back into your heart. Exhale, let's give a little bit of it to the earth, just bowing down slightly. Then press through the feet. Let the earth give you ground reaction force. Inhale, rise back up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, fill your heart with hope. Exhale, share that. Inhale, draw back in. Exhale, we'll give some to Mother Earth. Then inhale, sweep your arms all the way overhead. On the exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart center in Anjali Mudra. Take a deep inhale. And then imagine you're going to try to sit down into your chair, although we're not going to sit down, we're just going to bend our knees. Bending our knees, and we'll float our hands upward to create the balance. Beautiful. Exhale, cactus your arms. Ishvara Pranadhana, we surrender. Inhale, open your heart again. Exhale, squeeze your arms together like your arms are bellows blowing some air on the fire. Inhale, open. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now press through the feet and inhale, reach all the way up and let your arms float back down again. And we'll make our way into our seat, back into our seat. And create that same posture in your chair now. Just feel the soles of the feet on the earth. Feel the thighs supported on your chair. And feel the sit bones rooting down. We'll inhale, roll the shoulders up to the ears and down the back a few times. Keep going with the rhythm of your own breath. Really feeling the shoulder blades move across the chest wall. Deep inhales and exhales. Then we'll inhale our right hand all the way overhead. On the exhale, bring it over the crown of your head. Now you could keep it here if there's issues with your shoulder, or you might slide your hand back behind your head if it reaches there. Once your hand is there, gently press the back of your head into the palm of your hand with your chin tucked down, and press the palm of your hand into the back of your head. This creates Jalandhar bond, our throat lock. So we're locking the energy to flow up and down the spinal column. Deep inhales and exhales. Keep the breath long and strong. Yoga is a breathing practice. Then inhale, reach that hand all the way up. Exhale, float it down. Now there's always asymmetries from one side of the body to the other. So we listen to our own body. This hand might come up and we float it over the crown of our head. Maybe it's staying here on this side because there's issues with this shoulder. Or we might be able to slide the hand back behind our head, and then gently press the back of the head into the hand, and hand into back of head. Beautiful. Keep the breath flowing. And the jaw is soft, and the eyes are soft. We have something called a drishti gaze. Soft eyes. When the eyes lock up, the spine freezes. Then let the hand float back up and coming back down. Now both hands will float up together, and we'll interlace our fingers and just float them over the crown of the head. Together, they might be able to slip behind your head again. And once again, we gently press back of head into hands, hands into back of head. So healthy for the cervical spine. Deep inhales and exhales. We start to let go of the issues in the tissues. Then inhale, slide the hands back over the head and reach up and float them back down onto your lap. Take a deep inhale, lean forward, squeeze your shoulder blades together, open your heart. Exhale, curl your spine back, tuck your chin down towards your heart, and your tailbone tuck underneath you. Inhale, flow forward again, gaze out to the horizon, and exhale, curl back. Keep moving with the rhythm of your breath, inhaling forward to a cow posture, and exhaling to a cat. Really feel the articulations along the spine, the intervertebral discs and facet joints. Find that fluidity. Let the cerebral spinal fluid flow up and down the spinal canal. You might be rocking a little bit forward and back. Then inhale, lengthen the spine out, soften the shoulders down and away from the ears. Imagine your pelvis and your head are on a maypole, and you're using your solar plexus just to swirl a little bit around the maypole. Beautiful. The solar plexus, Manipura chakra, our third chakra, the element of fire that knows how to transform the fire, like your microcosmic sun. And the next time your solar plexus comes forward, just swirl that solar plexus in the opposite direction. Deep inhales and exhales. Really getting comfortable in our body. May I feel at home and ease in my body and feel balanced in my relationships between myself and others. Then inhale a tall spine and reach the right hand overhead again. If you can, float your left foot off the ground and bring your right elbow round to kiss the top of your left knee. Inhale, lengthen out. Exhale, tiger curl, elbow to knee. Inhale, reach up high. Exhale, tiger curl, elbow to knee. One more time, we'll reach up high, then we'll float the right hand back down to the lap. Then inhale, left hand comes up. Engage pelvic floor muscles, use the navel point towards the spine. The front body supporting the back body. Then we'll exhale, the left elbow to the right knee. Inhale, reach up tall. Exhale, lifting that leg up. Inhale, one more time, beautiful. Exhale. Inhale, tall spine, float that down. Then we'll inhale, both arms come up. Bring your right hand onto the edge of your chair and your left hand this way, and your left hand behind you. And take a deep inhale to lengthen the spine. Then spiral the spine in the around, gazing over your shoulder in a beautiful spiraling twist. As the breath, it keeps strong and full. We massage all the organs in the thoracoabdominal cavity. Then inhale, sweep arms overhead and twist opposite direction. Keeping the spine long and strong. Deep, full breaths as the gaze floats over that shoulder. Then inhale, reach up. Exhale, float hands back down to the thighs. Softly close your eyes for a moment and check in with your body and your breath. Breathing in, I am aware of an area of tension. Breathing out, I calm and release that tension. We start to break the habit of tensing to discomfort. We yield and breathe into the space. And imagine your body is like an hourglass. And the sand is flowing down the hourglass, taking all the tension with it, all the way down through the soles of the feet into the earth, dissolving all tension. May I be able to nourish and nurture myself, be grounded, stable, and feel connected to the oneness of life. May I be able to honor myself, be who I am in the world, and express that power without fear. May I see and perceive clearly on every level and seek only the truth. Follow the breath to the timeless beauty that is more than skin deep. Follow the breath to the confidence that is rooted in serenity. Follow the breath to the power that is tempered by compassion. Follow the breath to the love that knows no bounds. Drawing our palms together in front of our heart center, we'll rub the palms briskly, create some warmth and heat in your palms. Then place your warm palms over your closed eyes, just allowing yourself to come into a deep, dark, quiet calm. Deep inhale. And exhale. Breathe, and all will be revealed. Deep inhale. Exhale, hands back in front of your heart. Love, and all will be healed. This is yoga. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. How are we feeling now? I almost felt like we shouldn't have clapped there, right? It was too much, too soon. I hope that one of the things I love from being part of Carol's classes too was her little nuggets, as I used to think of them. Get rid of the issues in your tissues. Thank you again for that reminder. Well, Dr. Hutchison and Dr. Ester, so many of you may have questions for these two, and they will be available if you'd like to chat with them in the resource area after our event. But we now need to move along to our Q&A panel. We have some time for that, so I'd like to ask our presenters, Dr. McWhae, Dr. Swamy, Dr. Cadotte, and Dr. Nicholls to please come and join me here on the stage. And remember, they are happy to answer your questions, but they cannot offer any specific medical advice. So come on up, grab a chair, and if you have a question, please put up your hand and a volunteer will come to you with the microphone. And one question per person, please. And for those of you who are joining us virtually, a volunteer in the audience will also relay your questions as well. So just type them in and then they will be relayed and then hopefully we can get to those as well. So I will now move along here and we can, where is the microphone? Oh, Sandra, do you have the microphone or? Up at the back. Okay, so the microphones are at the back and how am I walking? Okay. I have to really think about it. I was hoping you'd give me that one, but you see, I need to move, even though of this wonky hip. Okay, so do we have any questions from our audience here? And we have a couple microphones that I think we'll take one right here in the front. Microphone is coming. And to any of our experts, fire away. McWhae. Well, it's interesting. I can hear you, but I don't know if at the back can hear you. Oh, there it is. Maybe you might have to just really.
Yeah, it sounds more like the latter. I have other recumbent bikes which are much easier to ride. The problem with that bike is my feet are clipped in and I have to get my feet 1 foot up 30 inches as I spin the first time. So even after riding that bike for 6 or 7 years, I typically crash starting once a year.
Oh.
Yep.
Thank you. Do we have another question on this side of the room?
Hello, I have a question for Dr. David Cadotte. I just had a question about the data set you used to find the markers of spine deterioration. Was that like a longitudinal data set where like you saw people over time get worse? And,
Yeah, thanks very much. So we have a couple longitudinal registries that we collect data on an ongoing basis. Some are local to our group in Calgary, and some are national data sets. Ours in Calgary are a little, they're more rich than the national data set because we're able to incorporate a lot of the imaging metrics, some of the MR data, as well as some advanced imaging protocols that looked at specific axonal tracts in the spinal cord or the amount of myelin that is present in the spinal cord. And we collect this every day of the week, and we have been since I started in 2017, and that data set continues to grow and will hopefully grow indefinitely. Our models get better the more data that we have. So yeah, thanks for the question.
And we have someone from the virtual audience.
Yes, someone online is wondering, and that question is probably for Dr. Swamy, do you recommend cortisone injections for herniated disc pain?
That's a good question. So, in fact, this is part of our routine. When patients come in with what we call a hot disc or really acute sciatica, we generally arrange for injections for the nerve root that's affected. So if you're getting pain down into the top of your foot, often we'll call it L5 radicular pain, and we'll ask the radiologist to put a little bit of steroid and a little bit of freezing around that specific root that's inflamed. So those are called selective nerve root injections, and they work really well in patients who are having leg pain. Injections around discs are a little bit more of a thorny question, and usually the second most common injection is not around the disc, it's around the facet joints in the back. And again, they're extremely common in Alberta. They do help a lot of patients, but there's probably a ceiling effect. After a little while, it doesn't work as well. So I think to summarize, to answer your question, if it's a really bad, what we call radicular pain, a nerve pain, then the injections work very well.
On this side of the room, yes? I really feel like it really isn't. Let's just switch that one up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for this amazing presentation. I'm in information overload, which doesn't often take much, but it definitely is incredible. So thank you. My question for Dr. Swamy is when you were talking about resorbers and non-resorbers, is it possible for people to return to their previous activity after this discovery and treatment? You're talking about the 85%. Can they return to their activities after this has been addressed?
Thanks for the question. I think absolutely yes. For the most part, after a disc herniation and an episode of sciatica, most people who are resorbers, or even if they're non-resorbers, are able to return to their regular activities. Now, for example, some NHL level hockey players may have a disc herniation and get back to hockey. So that is possible. It may not be on the time schedule, as you had mentioned, that you would like, but it can happen. Now, there are some other people whom after a routine disc herniation, and this would be the minority of people, the majority can return to activities, the minority of people will have really bad back pain or other symptoms thereafter and may need more treatment.
So the SI or the sciatic issues that you're talking about, are you referring to that as well? Yeah. And SI issues?
SI issues are a bit misunderstood, I suppose. I'd say that they're much less common than disorders of what we'll call the mobile lumbar spine. SI, because you feel pain overlying the SI joints, many people say, oh, that's my SI joint. But more likely, it's coming from the mobile spine, which is located above, but the pain is felt lower down.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Maybe from the other side of the room or at the very back or anyone in the front? I'll go back over to here and then maybe Karen, let me know if we have someone on the virtual. Dr. Hutchison. Good gracious. What is
This is the cardio part of the
That's
talk
right.
here.
It's all about movement.
This question, I guess, is mostly for Dr. Nicholls. So now that the hip surgeons are doing more anterior approaches to the hip and that requires them to extend the leg down on the operating room table, have you folks been seeing more issues with the lumbar spine after those surgeries, like disc herniations or things come up?
No. So I would suggest that there's a certain phenotype of people that get problems with their discs and do get disc herniations, and a certain phenotype of people that get arthritic change in their hips, and often there's a significant overlap between those two groups. What approach is used to, as you know, as you personally know, is used to put in a total hip arthroplasty can affect your recovery. It can affect muscle strength afterwards. It can affect mobility afterwards and recovery times. But ultimately, getting things in the right position is probably more important to us as spine surgeons than which approach you took to put those in.
One from the virtual audience. Thank you, Dr. Nicholls.
Yes, this question is probably for everyone. Are there any formal programs in place to address pain and activity for those of us waiting to speak to a surgeon?
Oh, that's my question too. We'll start, can all three, well, we know your example. We'll start Dr. Nicholls, and then any insight as well, Dr. McWhae, about that?
I would suggest that Dr. McWhae's program is rather informal and personally driven. There's a lot of research that goes into what a prehabilitation program should look like and how to standardize that across the country, and it's a subject that the three of us have already discussed at length. I think there's a lot of interested partners in the community as far as starting something like that, but we have yet to formalize a program like that. We're working on it.
I'd like to add that, again, Dr. McWhae has told you a lot about how you can build your own program. And I'm not sure that there are formal programs that end up costing a lot of money out of pocket that are so much better than trying to move yourself. So that's easier said than done when you're in a lot of pain. So I think patients on our waiting list, every patient is not the same. And those who are in real agony, we do try, but perhaps aren't very successful in getting those patients seen a little bit earlier than other patients. And so perhaps if you're having a really tough time, reach out to your family doctor to make a phone call to one of us, and maybe we can see you earlier. And otherwise, there's a lot of people who can help you in the community, but you don't need to spend thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think it's important to stay active, despite being pain. I know that's harder said than done, but I think one word that I tend to describe to patients in the clinic a lot is a word, kinesiophobia. People are afraid to move when they experience pain. Mm-hmm. So I try to explain that a little bit, and it's difficult to project on everyone's unique situation to answer that question, but I think the principle is try to stay as active as you can despite going through these experiences.
I'm sorry, that just so reminds me of my father, who had all these issues, and he'd just sit in his chair, and we'd say, "Dad, you have to get up and move." He said, "Lisa, you don't understand. I'm perfect just sitting here. I have no pain. Everything is good." "No, Dad, get up." And he just wouldn't, right? So to speak to that point, do we have some more here in the front? Oh, at the very back, sorry. At the very back, yes. I'm just moving. Okay, sorry, if you don't mind. Yeah.
That's okay. I just, I want to thank the speakers as well. They were really wonderful presentations and very informative. My name is Dr. Rebecca, and I am a chiropractor, and I just wanted to throw out there that there is a research program currently developed in partnership with the University of Alberta, along with the University of Southern Denmark. And it's a group education and exercise rehab program for people with persistent or recurrent low back pain. And it's designed to provide education and exercise rehab to teach people how to self-manage their back pain. The University of Alberta collects data on these participants to further the research in low back pain management. And of course, not every intervention is appropriate for every individual, but there are some structured program options out there that may be appropriate for some people to explore. And if you have any more questions about the program, I am one of a handful of healthcare providers in Calgary certified to provide it. I have a booth out in the resource area, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. On this side of the room, anyone before I come down in the front? Karen, anyone online? Let's try and squeeze in as many as we can in our allotted time.
I have a question here from Diana. She's wondering, she's in good health, but she also has a burst L1, severe osteo and debris pressing on her spinal cord. How can she find out if she is a resorbed or not, Dr. Swamy?
The resorb. Yes.
Well, again, these are very specific questions. Again, the condition sounds, right now, I suppose, more broadly, we don't know yet. That's what we're working on. And so for the specific question, I think it's best to reach out to one of us directly through the family doctor or referral pathway. And then if it's a really bad problem, we can help her out.
Thank you. I know there was one here in the front here. We'll just grab it, get the microphone. Thank you. How are we for time? Couple more? A few more? Okay.
Hi, I was just going to say that I have heard of a program that is offered, I thought, by the University of Calgary called GLAD.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, and what I had heard also is I know some people who wanted to enroll in it, but there's never enough people signing up for it. And I believe it costs about $700.
It was 500 the last I saw. I know, just to speak to that very, I think you can also find it through some physio clinics. They too have the GLAD program. I know that I tried to access it at Westbrook, and it was $500 for group classes. Maybe one of the doctors could just maybe speak to that with the GLAD, or do you know,
I think
Dr.
actually
Swamy?
the young lady who just gave us and has the booth.
Get this woman a mic, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yes, my name again is Dr. Rebecca. I am certified in the GLAD Back program. Like I mentioned, it's a group education and exercise rehab program designed for people with persistent or recurrent low back pain. It was developed in partnership with the University of Southern Denmark and the University of Alberta. It is a research program. They are continually collecting data on the participants to further the research out of UA for low back pain. I am one of 2 providers employed at the University of Calgary to provide the GLAD Back program, and I also provide it in my private practice, both virtually for any resident in Alberta, as well as in person. Again, I have a booth out in the resource area. Happy to answer any more questions about that. Just to clarify, I'm not certified in GLAD Hip and Knee OA, but I believe that's the program you're referring to in terms of payment price. GLAD Back is a little bit of a longer program in terms of number of weeks and number of sessions.
Okay.
So currently the price is $699 for the full program. Again, because I am a chiropractor who teaches the program, it is eligible for chiropractic extended healthcare benefits, healthcare spending accounts, and income tax receipts for healthcare expenses. And if you're a senior 65 plus, Alberta Blue Cross in Alberta does provide some coverage for chiropractic care for seniors. So again, I don't want to take up too much time, but if you have any questions or further information, please find me out in the resource booth. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we're okay for a couple more then. Yep, okay, I'm getting the nod. So any other, here we have one over on the side. Oh, okay. Yep, thank you.
Thank you so much. Amazing presentation. I have quite a few spinal issues, and before I'm looking into spinal surgery, I'm looking into a couple things. One is radio frequency ablation, which I'm holding off on, and I don't know if anyone can speak to the platelet-rich plasma. I was looking into that as well for pain management. I don't know if that's anyone's expertise at all.
I don't know if it's anyone's expertise at all.
I know, it's so
in
new.
the world. I would suggest that, most treatments that are really effective, the province will pay for. And so when people are trying to tell you that, I'm not talking about glad back and exercise programs, but when people are trying to tell you that there's this intervention and that intervention that will cost you, and that you should do it, I would say think again. We've all had to evaluate all these treatments and decide at some point or the other whether they're effective for the members of our province or not. And something like this, I have looked at, and really the evidence base is really poor.
Mm-hmm. Is there has there been enough research on these, or?
I would actually suggest, and anybody that's come through my clinic will have heard it, that if the cause of your back pain is the weight of your wallet, there are a lot of people out there that can help you with that.
Can we quote you on that? We've got to remember that one, don't we?
Super, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from our in-house audience? Oh, there's one right behind you. Thank you.
Hi. I was referred to the GLAD program because I'm having knee replacement surgery. If your family doctor is part of the primary care network, you can often get the GLAD program for free.
Okay, good to know.
Check into that. That's a possibility. But my trainer at my gym told me all the stuff that I was doing at the gym was actually better than the GLAD program, so there was no need for me to do that. So it's kind of like what Dr. McWhae said. You have to look out for yourself. You have to do what's best for yourself. And I have tried the PRP for $780 and it didn't work.
Can I just add a comment to that? We're getting to have more and more programs, and this is an area we're starting to understand how important movement is, which is fantastic, but it's a relatively new thing. So the group programs are excellent, but at the end of the day, it kind of falls with yourself. And if you're exercising when you're beat up and in pain, it doesn't really work to go with other people. You have to do a lot of it on your own. You have to learn to go out and ride a bike on your own, do yoga on your own. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's great when you can do it with your buddies in the group, but in this setting, you'll have to do some of it alone.
Any more questions you have one more here, I think, we have one at the back too, okay.
Can you speak to the role that diet, nutrition, and inflammation have when it comes to joint pain?
No.
That might have been last year's. But the good news is the doctors that we actually had last year did speak to that. In fact, I think even we actually had a nutritionist in 2022 that also spoke to that very subject. So you can actually access that on the McCaig Institute website or on YouTube and just punch those in. You'll see the links.
I suspect that the effect size of all those kind of interventions are probably pretty low when you look at the diseases that we deal with. Not to say they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple more. I think we have time for 2 more. Anyone online, Karen? Just, no, okay. 2 more then, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I am Luz. Aside from the exercises needed for these spinal pains or whatever, are there other advices or precautionary measures or practices to employ in order to avoid the progression of these spinal disorders or illnesses? And or if ever it occurs, to prevent spinal cancer?
Preventative measures?
I think if we knew a foolproof, definitive, preventative measure, we would be relaxing on a beach somewhere right now. Like, I don't think anybody really knows that. There's obviously things that you can avoid. I would suggest to everybody here that you not start smoking. It's,
Dr. Swamy, anything you'd like to add to that?
I think it's unfortunately a question to which the answer is no, that we don't. That first of all of our spines are a little bit different one from another. That some of us get spinal diseases early, some of us get it much later in life, some of us get it more severely, some of us may have very severe biological disease or structural disease, but don't have any symptoms, and vice versa. So I doubt very much that there'll be one prescription for all of mankind for a spinal disease. I think they're probably a group of heterogeneous diseases, but that's a very long way of saying, no, we don't have anything yet.
But they are working on it, right? Thank you so much for the Q&A panel. Thank you for your questions. Thank you very much. They're working on it, but I know we all want that magic bullet. I understand. Frankly, I'm quite annoyed that somehow I have osteoarthritis in my hip. Like, I've been active my whole life, I always exercise, and now I can't even walk to the parkade that well. So we'll see. If I'm back next year, you'll see where I'm at next year. Hopefully I'm going to be, I know I'm already inspired by Dr. McWhae, and so I hope that I can continue his journey and follow his example to continuously work on my individual health plan, so to speak. Now, in celebration of our 30th anniversary, I'm delighted to invite Marilyn McCaig to the stage. Marilyn has a longstanding commitment to volunteering in Calgary, and together with her husband, Jeff, they support various programs through their personal foundation where she is chair. Marilyn.
Thank you, Lisa. I am very pleased to have the privilege of giving a few closing remarks, and they will be brief. As we heard, this is a special day in the history of the Wood Forum at the McCaig Institute. 30 years is very special. Ron Zernicki spoke so eloquently this morning about John and Chris Wood that I will not go into that. But I would like to speak about their daughter, Donna. We are so fortunate that Donna Wood found this a worthy endeavor, and she has continued to support and design the program that you saw delivered today. Donna puts a lot of time and energy into choosing a topic that will resonate with a wide audience. Over the years, she has been very involved in the selection of speakers. She has often brought us Olympic athletes, professional hockey, soccer, excuse me, and football players that had first-hand experience in how injuries impacted their life. Herself, she is an avid sportswoman and a huge sports fan. In fact, she is probably the biggest sports fan I have ever met. If there's a game, she is at it, and she is probably wearing a wildly colorful wig. She is also the person cheering louder than anyone else. She roots for beloved Flames, Stampeders, and the Cavalry. Her passion and energy are inspirational in all she does. I am so honored that on this 30th anniversary, I am going to announce that Donna, special to me too, and the Wood-Krausert families have made an impactful donation to the Wood Joint Fund. It is their desire to see this event be offered even more frequently and to grow into a larger event. Their donation guarantees this continuance into the future. It's because of their generosity that we will continue to hear about MSK health and to hear from specialists in the field. This is a huge gift to public education, which doesn't always get attention, and it will help us be better informed, be better advocates for our own health, and perhaps even be a little less creaky, Lisa. So thank you, Wood-Crowsert families. We are very appreciative. And next year, we will have another forum. Look for us in November, and we will continue to address our health and mobility. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Marilyn, yes. Bravo. So we're now near the conclusion of our event. Marilyn is here with me because we would love to show you, as a token of our gratitude for your continued support today and over the past 30 years. This is why we are here with these wonderful door prizes. So again, you must be present to win. And if you do win, please just put your hand up and so we know where you are, and then please come to the stage at the end of the event. So we will begin with the dinner for two at Sky 360 at the top of the Calgary Tower. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Oh, lovely, yes. And here we go, and it is Brian Thomas. Are you here? There he is. Congratulations, Brian. You're the next contestant on, oh, okay. Next up is the Spruce Meadows Long Table Afternoon High Tea. So this is going on at the International Market coming up. I actually will be there on the Saturdays with my children's series. So if you see me, come and pop by. Here we go. The first winner is Marina Lau. Marina, are you here? There she is, yay. Enjoy your tea. Yeah, and just come down at the end of the event for us to get your particulars. And now the final draw for the Long Table Afternoon High Tea. The winner is, Constantine? Yeah, okay. Well, congratulations to our winners. Thank you so much, and so just come down to the stage, enjoy your tea, enjoy your dinner at the Sky 360. And a final big thank you to Dr. Donna Wood, her family, and the Wood Joint Research Fund for enabling us to continue these valuable public events. We're almost there, we're almost there. I think we need to also give a big round of applause, please, for our amazing speakers who have joined us here on Saturday. This event is also supported by the Alumni All Access Partnership Fund. And if you would like more content from the McCaig Institute, please stay in touch with them on social media. They are on X, on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. You will receive an online survey in the next few days about the event, and please do provide your feedback because it really helps us when we plan for the next events. Thank you again for coming today. Please mark your calendars. Guess when the next Wood Forum event is? Saturday, November 8th, 2025. To good health, my friends, to good health. Thank you.